Hey mamas, and welcome to the Entering Motherhood podcast. This is your one-stop go-to place for getting you from feeling drained, exhausted, and unfulfilled in motherhood to feeling more energized, organized, and accomplished. That's the vision I continue to navigate towards, and that's the vision we are sharing with you, focusing on holistic alternatives and restructuring your mind, body, and soul from the inside out. I'm your host, Sarah Marie Bilger, a wife, mom of two, mechanical engineer, VBAC mom, and doula, serving mamas through pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. If you're here for this, if you're as pumped up as I am and searching for that fire that you know is deep inside of you, then let's go. Let's uncover what it truly means to enter motherhood. You are a rock star. I believe in you. Let's doula this. Let's crank it up a notch and let's kick it into high gear together. Hey mamas, how are you? I am so excited to share this episode with you. This is kind of a little monologue of an episode, if you will, really kind of diving deep on asking deeper questions, having more of a conversation around who are we becoming? What does that look like? Aligning ourselves with our dreams and our visions and our passions, in motherhood specifically, but outside of motherhood also, and seeing that reflection of our motherhood experience with our life experience and really seeing how they overlap and intertwine. And also, I'm talking about two different events that I've recently been to and what those experiences were like, and really just uncovering what this podcast is becoming as well and where it's shifting and changing. It's going to be coming up on 3 years. I can't believe it. I have so many conversations that I want to share with you, so much that I want to bring, and I want to hear from you as well, because you are just as much a part of this podcast as I am. And while I am here being the one presenting this material and cultivating different conversations and different episodes, you are experiencing it and listening to it and interacting with it. And that's what makes it what it is. And so when you listen to these episodes, when you listen to this episode specifically, ask those deeper questions, get real with yourself, and really uncover who you are becoming and who you are as a person. And with that, let's get the conversation started. Hey mamas, how are you? So this is something that I have never before done on this podcast. And while I've had solo episodes before and I have gone off script before, I have had rough outlines and really just gone with basic sort of what I'm going to talk about, but also very structured outline before. This is the first time that I'm ultimately going completely unscripted, and I wanted this to be an episode like that, and I wanted it to come out on Monday, but here we are on Wednesday recording this. And I'll be posting it on Thursday this week. So if you're listening to this when it's live, it's Thursday. If you're listening to this at any other point, or maybe it is coincidentally Thursday as well, I am glad that you're here. And I feel so honored and filled with so much joy that you want to spend your time listening in on this conversation and getting to know me more. And ultimately, I want you to get to know yourself more. And when this podcast started, when all of this really started to unfold, I was discovering who I was becoming as a mom and who I was transitioning into in this new life. And it has evolved so much and really has meant so much to me. But I want to get deeper. I want to get more conversation started. I want you to dive into this transition and dive into this experience knowing that you're listening to this for a reason and that you're feeling like you get so much out of it when you spend the time really hearing these conversations. And what do you take away from it? And I want these episodes, I want these individuals that I find and spark something inside of me, and I get the amazing opportunity to speak with these people, with these moms, with these individuals, with these unique humans, and really just learn more about them, but hopefully open you up to a different perspective to learn more about yourself. And when you hear these episodes, how are you incorporating it into your own life? And how are you utilizing them to either get more rooted and more grounded into what you're already doing, or to begin something new, try something else, incorporate a new habit, a new understanding, a new perspective, and to be able to really utilize that in your own life. And so this episode, I really wanted to recap a little bit about what I've been doing and where I'm at and what's really unfolding for the podcast, for my life, for my motherhood journey, and really decompressing from a few events that I've been to in the past couple months. And so I feel like sometimes I shift around what I'm doing, or I don't fully open up about different scenarios or experiences, or, I think, well, if I know this, then everybody must know this. And the reality is the things that I've been exposed to and the perspectives that I've had and the experiences that I've been through and the things that I have done in my life are maybe similar to yours, but in no way are our lives exactly the same, because we are two completely different individuals living two completely different lives. And even if we had the same friend group or, the same family, we are seeing it through a different lens, and we're seeing it in a different light, and we're ultimately having separate lives, even if we're in the same vicinity or in the same culture or in the same, lifestyle. And so I really want that to sink in for a second. And I want you to understand just how unique and how individualized your life is. And with that, how individualized your motherhood is, and how you, as a mom, are shaping the lives of your children, and how individualized their life is. And so the one event that I had gone to, it was the Empower Her Live event. I had Keisha on the podcast a couple weeks ago. If you can remember her episode, if not, go back and listen to her episode because it is so good. She is, as far as I know, still currently pregnant. She's around 39 weeks, and I know that she had this big, elaborate dream, which I do think our dreams tell so much about us, that she was going to be dressed up like a disco ball for Halloween and give birth to her baby as she was having glitter everywhere and whatnot, and as this disco ball. So as far as I know, it did not happen, but to be determined when that might be. But anyway, I had gone to her live event that she held, and that experience in itself was the first time that I ever did anything like that in my life. And being able to be surrounded by other women who were chasing their dreams and going for more, or really just wanting to do something other than what they were doing or continue to do that thing that's on their heart, was super inspiring and super uplifting. And what an incredible experience to be in. And I actually had the amazing opportunity to room with somebody who I had not met in person in my life before, and I was unsure what that was going to be like. I actually had my mindset and my expectations set on being in a room all by myself for the first time in a long time, because, I have 2 young kids, and I was going to order takeout and be in my jammies and watch TV and hang out in the room and really just decompress and have all this alone time. And then all of a sudden things changed, and the person that I was going to be rooming with actually was planning on coming and was going to be attending, and I was going to have a roommate. So it was a little bit of an adjustment, and I was like, oh, is she gonna like me? Are we gonna get along? What's that gonna be like? I had it in my head, like all these different things of what if and how come and what will it be like. And it was the best roommate that I could possibly have. Shout out to Mariah. You and I have connected on so many levels at that event, and I was so blessed and so unexpectedly surprised and happy that I got to share that experience with somebody else. And again, we were experiencing the same exact thing, and we were in the same exact room. We were in similar spots during the event. We sat right next to each other almost every day during all of these things. We, were eating the same food and doing the same things. But I will tell you that me and her had different experiences and different perspectives. And while we're related on so much, I know that us as individuals were able to step away from that event with such different experiences. And everybody in that room was able to pull something out of it that was uniquely their own. And what I really thought was cool about the event, not only did it have amazing speakers and uplifting conversation and deep thoughts and just such a great vibe because the room was so full of so much energy, but there were moments that, we got a little notebook that we could take notes on. And there were moments of kind of free writing and thinking and music playing and all perfectly planned out little, okay, like now we're going to take a moment and think about this question. And now we're going to take a moment and think about that question. And it really just gave us all the opportunity to sit with ourselves and take a moment to answer these questions. And I'm looking at that workbook right now, and I'm looking at all of these amazing people that filled that workbook. And I can easily compare myself to them and be like, wow, like they got this awesome opportunity to sit up there and talk, and they're doing so many amazing things in life. And who am I, or what am I doing? Or they're so courageous to get up there and do those things. But again, they're not me, and I'm not them. And this comparison game can really do a lot to us, not only in motherhood, but in life. And I think for me, this transition of entering motherhood has really opened me up and raised my awareness on so many aspects that are really, truly life and life-giving. And I think it has propelled me to get deeper into the knowing and to the understanding of who I'm becoming and who do I want to be. And that was something that was kind of a message throughout a lot of these speakers. And it was really just, are you being honest with yourself? And is what you're doing sustainable? And, how are you presenting yourself? And is it aligned with how you want to be? we went into a lot of awareness or avoidance and burnout and all these fancy words that maybe we hear and mention, worthiness, really understanding your feelings and your emotions and consistency and, acknowledgement and really kind of touching in on those. And it really ultimately provided space and allowed me the opportunity to do that, to step away from my day to day, to step away from what I usually typically do and ask, is that what I want to be doing? And something that, has also got brought up in all of these events and things that I've been doing is, a lot of people say like, oh, no one's talking about that, or nobody is, opening up that box. And I want to question that and say, well, if nobody's talking about it, why are you talking about it right now? And so don't say nobody's talking about it if you want people to talk about it, or if you are talking about it. If you are literally having that conversation that quote unquote nobody is talking about, what does that make you? You're not nobody. You are talking about it. Maybe it's few people. Maybe you haven't planted yourself in a situation or a predicament or the right room, as like Keisha says, like get in the room. Maybe you haven't planted yourself in the room that those people are in, but you can create that room, you can create that space, or you can continuously search and find that space that does exist, because people are having those conversations. We live in a world that I believe every single possible scenario and conversation is happening. There are so many podcasts, so many outlets, so many different possibilities that I guarantee if you're having a conversation, again, you're an individual, you're unique. Maybe it's not exactly the same, but you can find somebody who's willing to have that conversation with. And podcasting has allowed me to do that. It has allowed me to have these conversations, and it has allowed me to get to the point of being able to freely just sit here with a mic right in front of me and open up to you and share what is on my heart, what is in my head, and gain the confidence to feel like I can do that and feel like we can have this conversation. And even though it feels very one-sided when I'm sitting here and I'm talking into the mic, when you reach out to me, when you text me, when you send me a DM, when you send me an email, we're connecting and we're extending that conversation more than how it started. These episodes spark different conversations. Maybe it ignites something in you and you share it with a friend, or maybe you found it so useful and so helpful that you share it with another friend. And then they share it with a friend, and it keeps that cycle going. I just hit top 3% of all podcasts that exist. How crazy is that? That's absolutely crazy. When I first started this podcast, that was not something that I knew was going to happen. That was not something that I envisioned or even understood. I didn't even know that rankings were a thing or how they were determined, or when people said, oh, I'm a top 3% podcast. I didn't know how that could happen, but here I am. And it's because I keep on tapping into this resource. I keep on spitting out episodes. I keep on wanting to do this. But it's also because of you, because you are willing to sit here and listen, because you are willing to rate the show, write a review, share it with a friend. You are very much a part of somebody else's progress. And I think that's really important to understand. If something is calling out to you, if something is on your heart, if you are feeling called to do something that somebody else is doing, I really do feel like it's because a little bit of you sees that it's possible. And now, knowing what I know now, I want this podcast to be successful. And also that I have to stop myself and say, well, what is success? What does that mean? I want this to be so much a part of my life that I'm not struggling to find time to fit this in, that I don't have to have late nights just to record or edit these podcast episodes. I want this to be what I do because I feel so connected to it. I want to have conversations that spark something inside of you, that really ignite you and have you thinking deeper than maybe you thought the night before, the day before, the moment before you listened to this episode. I want you to be in a new headspace, a new perspective. And I feel like because of my life experience, because of the things that I'm continuously putting myself in, I'm able to give you those little bits of what I experience. And you're able to take it with your own individual experiences and shape it into something new. Shape it into something that works for you. I feel like every episode, every opportunity that I get, I'm able to craft that and become better at it. I'm able to have that vision, to paint that message that you're able to consume. I'm able to articulate something that you can consume and take away that can help shift you along your path and your journey. And so while for us that has been the process of entering motherhood, this transition that we have flown into, but like I said, I feel like it's so much deeper. It's so much more about who we're becoming and what that life is. And so the second event that I had gone to recently was this mastermind for mom podcasters. And it was a small group of us, but it was so deep and so meaningful. And between that and the Empower Her event, I really got to thinking, like, this is awesome. And I'm so glad I put myself in those situations and I got real in-person connections and conversations. And, listening to this, you are going to get something out of it. Listening to an audiobook, you're going to get something out of it. Going on a Zoom call, being among other people in the virtual space, watching reels or TikToks, you're going to be able to connect with people. But there is something so unique about being face to face with somebody, being in the actual vicinity of that person, in their existence, and seeing how they're moving, how they're talking, how the energy is collaborating. And a big thing that I've been taking away is that I don't have to go anywhere to do this. You don't have to go anywhere to do this. The people that you see on a daily basis, the people that surround you, the people that are in your neighborhood, in your city, the people that you pass by on the street, if you want to have a deep conversation, you can. You can spark up a conversation with somebody in the grocery store. Maybe they're going to be a little too, quote unquote, busy or preoccupied or not able to stop and have that moment. But you can start intentionally making time for those conversations to happen. And that's something that I really want to start doing in my own town, in my own neighborhood, and the people that are in closer proximity to me. And while I do feel like sometimes we have to travel to go to events, I also have learned and seen and found evidence that we can just start doing that right where we are. And so obviously, if you're local and you're listening to this and this is sparking something inside of you, like, let's get together. I want to, talk about podcasting or talk about building businesses or talk about just who you are becoming in your own individual motherhood space or, what that looks like or what vision you have. Like, let's have a vision planning party. Let's cut out pictures from magazines and post them on a poster board and share each other's thoughts and visions. And, kind of like that when you were younger and you did the activities of who do you want to be when you're older? Who do you want to be now? You are older. Have you become what that dream was when you were a little kid? Has that shifted? Has that changed? And to be honest, it should change, or to be honest, it's allowed to change. Let's say that. Because some people, maybe they do have a dream when they're little to become something or do something, and they are continuously on that path. I'll say I like Taylor Swift. It even seems like silly that I have to potentially hide that, but I think you either are into her or you're not. And so I am proud to say that I am a Taylor Swift fan, and me and my daughter have gone and seen the movie twice now, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. And from a very young age, she knew this is what she wanted to do. She wanted to be a performer, a singer, a guitar player. She convinced her family to move and be that person that she knew she was meant to be. And now she continuously shifts and goes deeper and further into her version of who she knows she's meant to be. And like I said, I saw that movie twice, and I watched that movie. And not only her, but all of her performers, all of her dancers, all of the people that were up on stage with her, I was like, I don't specifically know what I'm going to be doing in this life or what that looks like, but I want to bring as much joy and excitement as they do when I do it. You can tell. I said, maybe it's really good acting or performing or whatever you want to call it. But from an outside perspective, it looks like they are having the time of their life, and they are so grateful and so happy to be there. They are so filled with purpose, and what I want to do is bring that excitement and energy into whatever it is I do. And if I'm not that overjoyed about the end goal, obviously every day in and out is not looking like that. But if I am not ecstatic when I'm doing the peak of my performance or my, highlight, then maybe it's not what I'm meant to be doing. I absolutely love recording these podcast episodes. I absolutely love attending a birth. Nothing makes me more excited to see a new family being created and that transitioning happening right before my eyes. I love coming into people's homes postpartum and seeing these little tiny babies and what the mom is transitioning into and experiencing. I know that all of these things light me up. I love having deep conversations. I love when there's that spark and somebody has a light bulb moment and somebody just gets so excited about what they're talking about. I feel that energy right now. I feel it in myself. I want you to find what that is for you. I want to go on this journey. I'm still uncovering so much of what it is, but I'm so proud of myself for starting that journey and for doing this and for finding people that want to do that too. And I know the pace that I'm going at feels organic and authentic to me and to who I am. And I think at first I was kind of struggling with I want to be there or I want to have more downloads. And now it's not about that. It's about finding what I'm really connected to and understanding that I am an individual and that we all do this at our own pace. And truly, I just love life. I love the creation of life. I love watching life happen. I'm a huge people watcher. I love getting to the root of who people are and why they do what they do. I'm super curious about, the inner workings of their thoughts, or when I hear something, I'm like, oh, why would they do that? Or, oh my gosh, that's so exciting. Why would they do that? Or how did they do that? And really just listening to others and understanding others and being able to be in a space where others hear and understand what I'm saying too. And it was really, really awesome when I was at the mom podcasting event, this mastermind with other people who are on paths of, building a podcast or, in the podcasting space. And when I expressed this stuff, when I really got rooted and open and honest and was sharing feelings that I had, and they said, oh, like, I would love to listen to that, or I'd love to hear that, or that's what you need to do more of. It was so validating. And I was like, really? You think people would want to listen to this? So I'm asking you, like, do you want to have these deeper conversations? Do you really want to spark your curiosity? Do you want to forget the surface level and dive on deep into, what motherhood is, what these transitions in our life are, and what that can look like? And really knowing that we don't have to know what the end is. We don't have to know what it looks like. And we don't have to know all the answers. It's okay to just go with the flow and really just let go. And we can do that with still having structure. We can do that with still having intentionality. We can stand for the and. So you will. It can all be both. It can be multiple scenarios, multiple situations. You get to piece together what your life looks like. You get to build it. I'm an engineer by trade, and I build things, I analyze things, I construct things, I calculate things. And I know that I do that in so many different aspects of my life. That's why I fell into the profession. That's why I felt aligned with engineering. But I also feel like I'm expanding so much more past that. And I have such a unique perspective and such a unique ability to want to do that work and dive deeper. And motherhood has sparked that in me. And maybe it has sparked that in you. And that's why you listen to these episodes. There is just so much that I want to share with you. And there is so many conversations that I want to have and continue to have. I love this platform. I love podcasting. I think it is the coolest thing that I can sit here right now in my office and talk to you through my mic, and you get to listen to it through your headphones, through your car, through your phone, whatever it may be. You can pause it. You can listen to it again. I know my memory isn't the best. I love to re-listen to episodes. I love to get that spark. And I also know that this is something that can be a way of holding on to those memories into the moments in that time. I recorded episodes when I was newly postpartum with Rosie. I recorded episodes when I was pregnant with Isaac. I recorded episodes when I was newly postpartum with him. Literally, like weeks, months after he was born, days before he was born. I was able to capture those moments in my life and my perspective at that time. And I have shifted, I have changed into a new person with every birth, with every year, with all new experiences. I have really been shifting and evolving into a different person. I could not sit here and talk to you for as long as I am 3 years ago, but I can do that now. I have gained the confidence or gained the experience or gained whatever it may be to get me to the point that I'm at now. And I'm so grateful for that. When we talk about generational impact and change, this is something that generations before us could not do. We're not able to do. We're pioneers in this. We're changing the narrative. We're changing what's possible. We're creating new professions every day. That was another thing. I said, I feel so aligned with doula work, and I know that I feel called to do this, but I also feel like it's something else. And they said, make up whatever title you want. Who do you want to be called? And I was like, what? Because we live in this world that we want to place each other in boxes, that we want to place ourselves in boxes. It feels safe to have, what do you do? Oh, I'm an engineer. I'm a doula. Like, oh, okay. Like something that somebody else can easily consume and digest and understand. Language is so funny though, because once you dig a little deeper, once you elaborate a little bit more, or once you're able to really define, what that looks like or what it is or what you do, then people can understand. And maybe it takes a little bit more to understand what that is. But in conversations, in understanding, in elaborating, when we continue to talk, when we continue to open up, when we continue to have the conversations around things that we want to communicate with, we can relate more. We can understand more. We can see what the other person is trying to do or what they're really saying. That, oh, okay, well, when you explain it that way, now I get it. Those moments. Because I think without it, there can be a lot of judgment. There can be a lot of misunderstanding. There can be a lot of tension, a lot of conflict. And, I'm thinking now in my head, like, this has gone on way too long. I have squirrel and every which way of this conversation. What am I really trying to say? And are you still listening? Are you still here? Are you still, intrigued by what I'm trying to say or what this conversation has become? And, I can say, oh, let me know, message me, send me an email. What are you really thinking? But I want you to feel compelled to do that. I want you to feel like there has been some sort of shift, some sort of energy exchange, or some sort of transformation that you have had because you have listened to this episode and you feel so compelled that you need to share it with somebody or you need to talk about it. Or maybe it has sparked something inside of you like, you know what, maybe I should have that hard conversation with somebody that I know, whether it be your partner, or a family member, or a friend. Maybe I should open up the conversation. Maybe we should, dig a little bit deeper, because what's the worst that's going to happen? It's either going to relive in your brain day in and day out, or you're going to think about that conversation over and over again, or you're going to be like, oh, well, what if they say this? What if they say that? I hope that they don't get offended, or I hope that they don't get upset, or maybe they're going to be really excited, or, maybe I'm not ready for all those feelings and all those emotions. Take your time, but also have that conversation. Talk about how you're feeling, because we are not mind readers. I am not a mind reader. I have not perfected that skill. I don't know anybody who can actually legitimately read minds. If you can, let's talk. But seriously, you might be holding resentment with a partner. You might be setting boundaries that you don't necessarily have to because you're just avoiding the conversation, or you're just scared of the unknown. You're afraid of the uncertainty of what might happen instead of actually figuring out what will happen. Oh, I surprise myself sometimes when I go off on these tangents and the words that actually come out of my mouth and the things that I actually think of, and I allow my brain to process. It's kind of like my version of journaling. And, maybe it's for you, like getting out a pen and paper and just free writing. Just write right now, like what's on your mind, what's your thoughts, or maybe it's leaving yourself a voice memo, or maybe you have your own podcast and it's going and recording an episode that you're really, truly speaking from the heart, because we need more of it. We need more people authentically sharing their own truth, their own perspective, their own version of what they're living and what is truly happening. Because I think more things will happen when we actually take action and we actually go for these things that we're dreaming about or doing or thinking about or saying. I think it's kind of obvious if we think about it. Like, how could it not happen if you're doing more? That conversation is never going to be had. You're never going to go do that thing that you want to do if you never attempt it. We talked about this like fear of failure, or, what's the but? What's holding you back? Why can't you have that? Why can't you do that? And peeling back those layers, getting a little bit deeper, really figuring out like, who are you? what do you want to do? And the word becoming was coming up. I'm ready to be that person for you. Like specifically, like we went into, our intentions and what we really wanted to take away. And that's something now too that I'm trying to be more aware of. Like when you go somewhere, when you go to an event, when you go to the playground with your kids, when you go to the pumpkin patch or whatever it might be, like holidays are coming up, like when you're going to that holiday party or you're having that holiday party or you're having friends over for dinner or you're having a birthday party, whatever it might be, like what is the real intent with this? What are your intentions? Why are you doing this? And what are you going to do to make sure that those intentions, that vision is actually playing out? What steps are you taking to see that transpire into what you want it to be? If you're inviting friends over for dinner, what are you cooking? How are you placing the table? How are you setting it up? We just went to 2 weddings this weekend, back to back. And it was really awesome to see how each couple individually created their day. And I'm sure that they planned them for a while. And I'm sure that they really thought about so many little details that I even wasn't exposed to or comprehend it. But they knew that that was going to make their day exactly what they wanted it to be. I remember being very adamant on wanting fresh flowers at our wedding and having specific colors laid out. And the song choices I think are so awesome. The song that you're walking in on, the song that you're dancing to, the song that you dance to with your parents. You're intentionally choosing those things because you want a certain outcome. You have a certain feeling surrounding that song for your birth and planning your birth. We have come to a point that maybe sometimes it's a little too elaborate, I will admit, but why are you doing it? Why do you want the type of birth that you want? Why does that mean so much to you? I had 2 potential client calls this past week, and I said to the one, why is this something that you want? Why is it something that you want to go for? I love working with VBACs, vaginal birth after cesarean. And one of the mamas, that's what, they're going for. And I said, why? And it was kind of like, I need to think a little bit harder on that. And I hope that they do. I hope that with everything, you're not just seeing it or hearing it or thinking that that's how you have to have your birth. Same with, I just had a client who gave birth and she laid on her back and we had the discussion of birth positions and things like that. And I said, honestly, you're going to be in the moment and whatever feels comfortable to you, whatever feels right to you should be exactly how you are and what you do. They were laying on their back and they remembered me saying that. And they said, you know what? This feels okay. This feels right. I think we get persuaded or confused about what this life is supposed to look like based on other people's perspectives. And we stop thinking what we truly want and why. Well, it worked for that person, so maybe it will work for me. Oh, well, they seem to like that, so maybe I'll like that. You won't know what you like or what you want until you start chasing those different avenues, until you start going down it. And then you can say, oh, I don't want that. I don't like that. And that's a good place to start. Saying, I don't want it to look like that. I don't want to sit at my computer for hours a day and never see my children. I don't want that. But I do want to see them more. How often do I want to see them? I could cuddle them all day. I could see them every single moment. But I'm saying that from a perspective of where I'm at right now. I don't know what that looks like. I just got to spend a whole entire week with them, but I was also going off and doing things for myself and, going to the wedding. We had my grandma and my aunt watch them. We got to go to a wedding by ourselves and be without them. And it was nice. It was different. But I chose to do that. I chose to be away from them and have the opportunity to go see old friends and to go do those things. I love really just getting deeper with the question of, like, wouldn't it be cool if, what does that look like for you? I say, like, wouldn't it be cool if I can have these conversations more often with you and truly speak from my heart and fill you in on my perspective of life and what's transpiring in my mind and what's going on, so that I can dig deeper and relay like how I'm embodying that and how we can really kind of flip it to be so that you can live out your dreams and what you want and really crack open that conversation and that understanding and who you are. Would you like that? We talked about what's your superpower and what do you want your everyday life to be like? And a big one that has really been sparking a lot of conversation for me lately. And on our car ride, so we drove all the way up to Ohio, over to Pennsylvania, and then back down here to South Carolina. And on our drive, my husband and I, chat more on my end than on his end, but he pulls into the conversation as well. And we get a little bit deeper and talk about things. But one of the things when I was with the other moms in the mom podcasting mastermind is we were saying, how do you want to be remembered? And initially, when I was thinking about that question, I jump right to be remembered after I die. How do you want to be remembered? I automatically think of it as what people say about me at my funeral, or, what conversations people have with me about me years from now. But the more I kept saying, how do I want to be remembered? How do I want to be remembered? I kept on saying, why can't that be now? When I meet a new person, when a new person listens to these podcast episodes, how do I want to be remembered? When I have an interaction with somebody, currently, now, presently, how do I want them to remember me? How do I want them to describe me? How do I want to be perceived now? Because it doesn't have to be when we're dead. It doesn't have to be when we're gone. It doesn't have to be later on or, years down the line when we're old and thinking back on our life and saying, oh, like, remember when? Or, it doesn't have to be then. It can be now. And so I'll leave you with that. If you have stuck around and listened to this entire episode, I get you. I hear you. And I like it. I like that I can open up and have this conversation and have you here listening in. And, I ask, like, how do you remember me? How do you remember this episode? What kind of feelings do you take away from this conversation? And how do you want to be remembered? How do you want to be described? Is that the right word of saying that? How do you want to be perceived? And are you doing those things? Are you being intentional about it? When you walk into a room, when you go to a party, when you go to a new event, if your kids are in school, when you meet the other parents, when you go to a teacher meeting, what kind of things do you want to do or say or have or act like? And are you doing those things now? What little steps can you be taking to be closer to that person of who you want them to remember you as, or how you want to be perceived? So this has been fun. I feel like I have been chatting immensely, but this is a little bit of an update, a little bit of where I'm at, a little bit of who we're all becoming, and this journey that this podcast is forever evolving into. So I thank you. I'm so glad you're here. See you later, mamas. Thank you, mamas, so much for listening. Remember, you are a rock star. I believe in you. Let's doula this. Let's crank it up a notch and let's kick it into high gear together. Hit that subscribe button, share this episode with a friend, message me, email me, call me, beat me. You know how to reach me. We're doing this, mamas. I am so excited to catch you here next week. This is your one-stop go-to place for helping you find the resources you need to make the best choices for you and your family during pregnancy, birth, and most importantly, postpartum. See you later, mamas.